Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Macmillan Children's Publishing Group Fall 2025 preview event. Please chime in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from today. My name is Mary Van Aken, and I am the Executive Director of School and Library Marketing at Macmillan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Quill, and I am the Associate Director of School and Library Marketing here at Macmillan.
Hi all, I am Alicia Lobos, the Marketing Manager here at MacKids School and Library.
Hi all, I'm Davina and I am a new Associate Marketing Manager at Macmillan School and Library.
Hello, I'm Grace and I am the School and Library Marketing Assistant.
And we are just delighted to give you an overview of our fall list of titles, including picture books, chapter books, middle grade, young adult, and even a few adult titles from our imprints at Macmillan Children's. Our imprints include Fywell and Friends for our Strauss Giroux books for young readers, Balzer and Bray, Henry Holt books for young readers, First Second, Roaring Brick Press, Neon Squid, and Odd Dot. We'll kick things off with a keynote address from a debut middle grade author, María Dolores Águila, introducing A Sea of Lemon Trees. We are also so excited to welcome Newbery Medalist and best-selling author Rebecca Stead. She'll be in conversation about The Experiment, a fast-paced coming-of-age novel that asks universal questions about how we figure out who we want to be and whether it's ever too late to change. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. In the chat, you'll see a link to a full list of titles we're discussing today. This link was included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. You can also download the title list by copying the URL on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact Booklist at webinars@booklistonline.com. In the digital review copy column for picture books and graphic novels in the title list, you can click through to read a digital review copy on issue. Please do not share these links as they are intended to be used for review purposes only. In the digital review copy column for middle grade and young adult titles, you'll find a link to request the book on NetGalley where available. As we only have 60 minutes to present, this is not our full list of titles. And if you are posting about this event on Blue Sky or any other platform, please use hashtag MacKidsPreview.
If you have a question or need technical assistance during today's presentation, please use the Q&A box. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. Today's event will be recorded and the recording will be shared with you after the event. Finally, we expect all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness, and anyone who violates the standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed.
Next slide, please. All right, let's kick things off. I'm thrilled, so excited to introduce María Dolores Águila, author of A Sea of Lemon Trees, the Corrido of Roberto Alvarez. I read this book earlier this year and was just floored by this heartfelt, uplifting middle grade debut novel in verse based on the true story of Roberto Alvarez and the Lemon Grove incident. Maria is a Chicana poet and author from San Diego. She's deeply inspired by Chicana history and art, and she seeks to write empowering and inclusive stories about everything she learns. And this book is just the perfect example of that. Maria, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to MacKids and Booklist for having me. It's an honor to be here. Before Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, before Mendez versus Westminster in 1946, there was Roberto Alvarez versus the Board of Trustees of the Lemon Grove School District in 1931. And then there was me in 1984. A typical millennial, by all accounts, someone born far outside the times of segregation. At least, that's what I thought. I didn't know it then, but I had been born into a legacy, one I couldn't yet see, but that I was already living in. We exist in the echoes of the past. The things that have been done cannot be undone, but we can grow from them. I've always loved learning, especially when it comes to Mexican American history. I learned so little of it during my school years that anything I discover quickly becomes an obsession. About 12 years ago, when I decided I wanted to be a published author, I made a promise to myself that I would focus on writing historical fiction featuring untold events from Chicano history. The process wasn't as neat as I'm making it seem, but I only have 10 minutes. As I mentioned, I learned very little about my people's history in school. All I had to hold on to were a few passages on Cesar Chavez and the Great Boycotts, which is great, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more. As an adult, there's nothing that makes me happier than a long afternoon with a microfiche researching Mexican American history of San Diego. It makes me feel like Indiana Jones, except I'm in the city library and no one is hunting me down. One of the first stories that grabbed my attention was the Lemon Grove incident of 1931. I was raised and still live less than 10 miles from Lemon Grove in National City in the southernmost part of San Diego County. When most people think of sunny San Diego, segregation probably isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But San Diego has been, and still is, deeply segregated. A study by UC Berkeley found that people of color continue to live in concentrated areas like Southeast San Diego, while northern and coastal parts of the city remain predominantly white. As a child, I understood this. I knew that I lived in a low-income neighborhood, but I thought I just lived where other poor people lived and that they just happened to be Mexican American. But there was something else to it, something that I couldn't articulate. In school, we learned about Jim Crow, Ruby Bridges, and the fight for civil rights. But somehow, my child's mind couldn't connect what I was learning to my own life. All the schools I went to were heavily Latinx, 85 to 90%. It wasn't 100%, and if your fortunes changed, you could move to a nicer place and no one would stop you. So to my child's mind, it wasn't exactly segregation. It wasn't until I was an adult that I became informed about the racial covenants to keep San Diego segregated. There was a reason that I lived in National City. And when you tie in the fact that schools are paid for by property taxes, leading to underfunding, making upward mobility less accessible, you can see the cycle. A cycle that seems impossible to break. Learning about the 1931 Lemon Grove incident, how the Mexican American students were singled out and forced to attend a separate school that was a retrofitted barn, it wasn't hard for me to believe. In fact, it was a relief. Because everything that I had suspected as a child, it was true. I wasn't reading things wrong. As a child, I had no language for what I was sensing, but I knew something wasn't right. The knowledge and history of the Lemon Grove incident gave me that language, and that led me to wonder what else I didn't know about. As I researched the Lemon Grove incident, I gained insight into the time period, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, and the Mexican repatriation, where an estimated 300,000 to 2 million Mexican and Mexican Americans were deported without due process, many of them children. And things just started falling into place, like why my grandmother was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, instead of Texas, like her siblings. My abuela, who I am named after, got her citizenship in the 90s. Her mother had died when she was very young, and she had spent most of her life in survival mode. When I was a kid, things like ancestry and DNA testing weren't what they are today. And since I didn't know about the Mexican repatriation, I never thought to ask my abuela about it. After she passed, I started looking into our family history, into what might have been lost or hidden. And imagine my surprise to find out that my great-grandmother was a US citizen. I was stunned. What could that knowledge have changed for my abuela, for my mother, for me? I could talk a lot more about this, but I think it comes down to not knowing. Because if we don't know our history, if we don't know what happened in the past, it causes us to become divorced from the context in which we currently find ourselves. Like me, thinking that my life had never been impacted by segregation, that as a millennial, I had been born past it. Learning about the Lemon Grove incident, how the people of the Colonia banded together to fight back, how Roberto Alvarez became the lead plaintiff, how the Mexican repatriation was used to terrorize the Colonia into compliance, and how we're all still living in the echoes of that. I had to write about it. How could I stay silent? Because as cliche as it sounds, knowledge is power. And when kids know the true breadth of the resistance and resilience of their communities, they become a force to be reckoned with. However, even with all this inspiration, writing this story was still a challenge. I had originally tried to write A Sea of Lemon Trees as a picture book. It was hard because there was just so much I wanted to say, but I was limited by the picture book format. I kept fiddling with it, trying to make it work, but I couldn't get it quite right. Someone suggested that I try writing the story as a middle grade novel. When they told me that, it was like being struck by lightning. During my research, I'd come across an old advertisement for Lemon Grove. One of the selling points was this phrase, "A sea of lemon trees as far as you can see." And the first line of a poem came to me. I live in a sea of lemon trees. The whole novel poured out of me in about 6 months, which for me is fast. One decision I had to make was whether it would be fiction or nonfiction. I tend to like sticking to the facts, but this story needed me to take creative liberties to tap into the ancestral knowledge of what it means to be Mexican American in the United States. When I connected with my amazing editor, Luisa, she encouraged me to follow my creativity wherever it was leading me. And so, A Sea of Lemon Trees became historical fiction. I changed things. I invented characters, events, dialogue. But the heart of the story is still there. How children and a group of committed people supporting them can change the world. Earlier, I mentioned Brown versus the Board of Education and Mendez versus Westminster, not to take away from their importance, but to add context to the long, layered fight against school segregation. It was shaped in large part by the tireless work of Black activists, families, and legal scholars who built the foundation for so many of the rights we continue to defend today. I don't know how readers will receive this book yet, but what I do know is why I wrote it. I wrote it so kids like I once was have the language to speak on what's happening around them. So they can say, that's my family story. Or, my people have struggled and overcome injustice, and so can we. Writing into these gaps, these hidden moments, reclaiming our history for young readers, providing them with the social capital to launch their own movements has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. To speak to you, people who care about our future, who are guiding the next generation of readers, is everything. Things are hard, especially when you consider the forces trying to divide and diminish us through policy, through fear, through silence. But we will prevail because stories are magic. Stories can change the world. And we all have a story inside of us. Your story might be the one that changes everything. Because where injustice grows, resistance blooms. Today, we have an amazing lineup of incredible authors and illustrators blooming with beautiful stories. Stories they wrote to inspire, uplift, and entertain young readers and their families. I hope you're ready to hear them. I know I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. That was wonderful. I am so excited for you all to read this book. And we're going to jump into our buzz portion of this event now. So we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide. If you loved What Can a Mess Make, we've got another golden read from best-selling author illustrator B. Johnson in While We Wait. It's full of her signature, warm, cozy art highlighting more familial moments as one family goes through a day of errands. Next slide. Being a kid often means being impatient as your parents take you on their endless errands, but this story imagines a day full of quiet magic, simple pleasures, and make-believe. Next slide. While the kids are waiting for mom to be done with her to-do list, they're also spending quality time with her, exploring their town and making memories. Bee's rhyming text and detail in the art make this the perfect read aloud for little ones. Next slide. And They Walk On is a book about grief written for some of our youngest readers. Award-winning author of Fry Bread, Kevin Maillard, breathes life and love into this intimate picture book about loss, with illustrations from renowned best-selling artist Rafael López. Next slide. You can see some of his beautiful art here. Next slide. And I want to leave you with this video from Kevin. Next slide.
I'm Kevin Maillard, and I'm the author of And They Walk On. After my mother died, I was very confused. Why wasn't she calling me? Why wasn't she giving me directions on how to do things? I went to her house, and her hairbrush was still there with hairs in it. Her shoes were on the floor. Her influence was still everywhere around me. When we think about death in Indigenous communities, it is thinking of it as an active way of transitioning from one life form to another. So her body might not be here. I'm still very confused about where that is, even though I know that she would be in a casket, but she is still all around me every single day. So it's not that she has disappeared, it is that she has changed form. I wrote this book because I want other people to think of that when they are dealing with the death of a parent, a grandparent, or even a pet. How can we think of those people as still with us and still affecting and influencing our own lives? So it's not that we stop loving these people. We continue to love them, and we still continue to appreciate the influence and the change that they made in the world, and that change that they made could be with you as the reader.
Thank you. Next slide. And we have Pearls in the Sand. From the author and illustrator of the Ezra Jack Keats Honor recipient, Benito Juarez Fights for Justice, comes a deeply heartfelt picture book about sea turtle conservation in Oaxaca, Mexico. Next slide. Historically, sea turtles were hunted on this coast, but now the area is filled mostly with enthusiasts called tortugueros that dedicate their lives to this conservation. This nonfiction picture book is filled with information about how sea turtles travel great distances led by magnetic fields, fight for survival, and lay eggs on the beach. Next slide. Following a grandfather who's teaching his granddaughter how to rescue sea turtles, you read about how the conservationists gather the eggs, take them to a hatchery, and keep a watchful eye over their conditions. This book also notes other scientific facts about the area while still spotlighting a story about a family who's doing their best to save sea turtles. Next slide. Oh, sorry, you can go back one. The back matter includes a glossary, the cycle of a sea turtle, an illustration of the Oaxacan coast, an author's note, and additional resources. There's so many resources in the back of this book. It is a great read. Okay, now next slide. And we have Hopeful Heroes. This gorgeous book is a companion to Bravo and celebrates a remarkable mix of artists, activists, athletes, and inspirers of every kind from all over Latin America. These individuals hail from a wide range of time periods, like Julio Garavito Armero, a Colombian astronomer from the 19th century, to Pelé, the beloved soccer player from Brazil who is revered today. Next slide. Each person is brought to life with a poem that introduces young readers to that individual's most salient accomplishments while providing historical context. Next slide. Multi-award-winning author Margarita Engel's poetry is paired with striking imagery from Latinitas illustrator Juliet Menendez, and detailed back matter provides even more information, making this an invaluable resource for classrooms. Next slide. Bitter Tea and Rock Candy. This beautiful picture book has so many wonderful things: a sweet grandparent-grandchild relationship, gorgeous artwork, and an always relatable and universally reliable kid-level story, this time about picky eaters. Next slide. Kids all over the world struggle with bitter foods and picky palates, and I think readers of all kinds will really relate to Mimi and Waipo's story. This book offers a look into what is a very classic and specific example of kid food struggles in author Yan's Chinese community. Next slide. The author-illustrator Yan Gu is a debut creator who lives in Shanghai but spent her college years at RISD. Her art is so warm and evocative, and we really hope you enjoy this one. Next slide. A Snow Day for Amos McGee. This is an inviting and heartwarming wintry tale about friendship and playing in the snow from Caldecott medal-winning and New York Times bestselling duo Philip and Erin Stead, perfect for fans of the snowy nap and the mitten. Next slide. Amos McGee, the friendly zookeeper, loves spending time with his good friends no matter the season. When snow in the forecast never arrives, he decides to head home and hope it comes another day. Next slide. But when an overnight snow falls, what shall his lovable squad of animals do? Visit Amos and play in the snow, of course. This cozy classic tale of friendship and the anticipation of winter weather will be sure to delight readers of all ages. Philip and Erin Stead are the creators of picture book classics such as A Sick Day for Amos McGee Misses the Bus, Bear Has a Story to Tell, and many more. Next slide. The Daddy-Daughter Dance. This book is about a daddy and daughter boogieing around town before their favorite night of the year. Next slide. Mona and Daddy start the day off right with some dance tunes. Anticipation builds, but the big dance with plenty of sweet and silly moments, and Daddy's little reminders are perfect echoes throughout, even if his smooth moves have some bumps along the way. Next slide. They arrive at the dance only to discover it's been canceled, but then Mona remembers what Daddy always says, the groove is inside of us all. With a little ingenuity at the nearby park, we see other families and park dwellers joining in on the fun. This is definitely a celebration of not just family, but how communities can come together during life's unexpected twists and turns. Malcolm's joyful text and Janine's trademark colorful illustrations will make this a longtime favorite. Next slide. Okay, we have Andre Leon Talley, who was a legendary larger-than-life fashion editor given to extravagant capes and grand pronouncements, who shattered his industry's glass ceilings as the rare Black editor at the top of a field that was mostly white and notoriously elitist. Next slide. His incredible story begins in the Jim Crow South, where Andre was raised by his loving grandmother who taught him dignity and encouraged his fashion sense. The world was not an easy place for young Andre, but he found solace in the pages of books and magazines, which allowed him to escape into the glamorous world of literature, art, and fashion, and on his television, where he saw Jackie Kennedy giving a tour of the White House. Next slide. With his grandmother, he even walked his first runways, the aisles at church on Sunday mornings. Andre studied French and cultivated what would become his encyclopedic knowledge of fashion. He soon made his way to New York City, where he worked with Diana Vreeland and Andy Warhol before becoming a leading editor at the same magazines that inspired him as a child. Next slide. With stunning art from fashion illustrator Lamont O'Neill making his picture book debut, this beautiful book is a celebration of the creative genius and an icon of style, perfect for fashion lovers of all ages and for Black History and Pride Month celebrations. All this done by Carol Boston Weatherford and Rob Sanders, whose combined talents add up to something really special in this fabulously fashionable picture book biography, which will include back matter on Andre and the world of fashion. Next slide. And we have plenty more picture books to browse in our title list. We hope that you click through them in the grid. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And now on to middle grade.
To kick off middle grade, we have Dream. I'm excited to introduce Dream by Barbara O'Connor, the highly anticipated follow-up to Wish, which has been made loved by over 2 million readers on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 years. In Dream, we meet 11-year-old Ida Lee, a small-town girl in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina with big dreams of becoming a country music songwriter. With the local radio station announces contest, Ida Lee is determined to win and have her song recorded by an up-and-coming singer. Knowing that buying a shiny blue guitar from Asheville's music shop would improve her chances, she plans to find her late granddaddy's long-lost treasure. While this is a companion to Wish and includes some of the beloved characters from that book, it also can absolutely be read on its own. We love this quirky treasure hunt that blends country music's heart with small-time charm, tackling resilience and community, perfect for fans of Catherine Applegate and Kate DiCamillo.
The first week of August hangs at the very top of summer, the top of the livelong year, like the highest seat of a Ferris wheel when it pauses in its turning. Thus begins Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, one of the most iconic children's books of the last century, celebrating 50 years in 2025. We are publishing a 50th anniversary edition with a foreword from Gabrielle Zevin, never-before-seen bonus material, and an afterword by Natalie Babbitt's daughter, and new black and white illustrations. Longtime fans will recognize the cover as the original cover art for the book, illustrated by Natalie herself. In just 176 pages, Natalie wove a spellbinding tale that has enchanted millions of readers with the unforgettable premise, what if you could live forever? Next slide. We are also celebrating 50 years with an absolute jaw-dropper of a graphic novel adaptation illustrated by Kay Woodman Maillard, who you may recognize as the illustrator of the Great Gatsby graphic novel adaptation. This adaptation is perfect for new fans and longtime readers. Next slide, please. Longtime fans will be delighted to see that iconic cabin from the cover from the opposite perspective, the perfect homage to a timeless classic. Next slide. It's just so beautiful to see this art. It's really an amazing package. Next slide, please. Okay, it is with great delight that I share with you Pocket Bear, my favorite Catherine Applegate book yet, and I don't say that lightly. I am a huge Applegate fan. There are many ways I might describe the character Pocket Bear, but I think the book's narrator, a sassy cat named Safrina, does it best. He is a hero, not a big, important hero, but there are many kinds of heroes. Next slide. This is a book about Pocket Bear, a tiny bear stitched with care during World War I to sit inside the pocket of a soldier to go to war to have someone to look at him to give him hope. This was a common practice at the time. Here are a few adorable examples. 100 years later, Pocket Bear now lives in a home with other secondhand toys, lovingly cared for by a young girl and her mother. Next slide. Here's the whole crew, illustrated by Charles Santoso in one of a collection of art pieces interspersed throughout the text. You can see the book's narrator, Safrina, here, and I'm sure it will come as no surprise to any fan of Catherine's to learn that once the humans go to bed, all of these wonderful animal characters come to life, ultimately hatching a plot to save one of their own from a greedy collector. There's really no easy way to sum up what makes this book so special. It's the unforgettable voice, the unshakable belief that it instills that second chances are for everyone, and the reminder that the most precious things in our life are right under our noses. We'll have an e-galley to share very soon, and we'll email all attendees with an opportunity to request this truly special next book from one of children's literature's modern icons. Next slide. And now I'm so excited to introduce our next special guest, the winner of the 2025 Coretta Scott King John Steptoe Award for New Talent, Craig Kofi Farmer, here to introduce his second novel, A Method for Magic and Misfortune.
Hello there, so I'm Craig Kofi Farmer, and I'm so excited to talk to you about my second middle grade novel titled A Method for Magic and Misfortune. This book is about a young boy named Marcus who realizes that he has divination magic potential. And just when he's freaking out about what this means, his mentor and his hero and his favorite person in the world tells him, Marcus, I know what this is, and I'm also a master at it. And so Marcus is over the moon. He gets to be in the coolest class ever, with his favorite person ever. But as time goes on, Marcus starts to realize that maybe this training program is asking more of him than he should give. And so in a world where so many kids are asked to be more discerning than ever about what relationships to pour into, which relationships to trust, I hope that this book will teach kids to recognize which relationships are healthy and which ones are toxic. I'm so excited for you all to read. Thank you for all you do, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks to Craig. So next up, you'll likely recognize H.E. Edgman as the author of the 2025 Stonewall Honor title, The Flicker. We are publishing their sophomore middle grade title this fall, Defanged, and the premise is irresistible. What if vampires were real, and what if they revealed themselves to humans? In Defanged, this is exactly what happened in the not-so-distant past, but after emerging from the shadows, they're met with a cure made by humans for their vampirism. Only our main character, Lux, is not so sure he wants this cure, and when the day arrives for him to get his first shot, he runs away, seeking the storied underground of Nox Urbis, a place where vampires can be vampires. On top of just being a riveting story, this book can also be read as an allegory for autism. H.E. shared that for the first time writing this book, they wrote it without applying the filter they usually do when writing characters to make them feel more neurotypical. Readers will be invited into Lux's rich internal monologue as he pieces together how to feel about being a vampire and how to feel about the fact that so many people are telling him who he is wrong. Defanged is the perfect example of an incredibly moving identity story wrapped up in an irresistible premise with a character that is so easy to root for.
James Bird brings you his latest middle grade novel, Where the Breakfast Club Meets Hatchet. What connects a raccoon, a skunk, and a moose? Okan, the raccoon, is a 13-year-old whose mom works so hard he never sees her. Sarah, the skunk, has been teased relentlessly about her body odor ever since her mom died. And Marcus, the moose, is the bully, the rich kid who seems to have everything except his parents' love. Instead of attending detention, they embark on a wilderness quest inspired by a sighting of an elusive white wolf, believed to possess magical powers to help them overcome personal challenges and heal their hearts. This novel promises an adventure and heartwarming journey while addressing the urgent theme of environmental preservation, with the symbolic white wolf representing the many animals and ecosystems struggling to survive against human development. Wolf Club is perfect for fans of The Midnight Children and Beast. #1 New York Times bestselling author Dan Gemeinhart brings you his newest heartfelt, hilarious middle grade novel, Busted, full of friendship and adventure. Meet 12-year-old Oscar Aberdeen, an old soul who's lived his whole life with his grandfather at Sunny Days retirement home. While Oscar's skill in bridge, poker, and love for Sinatra make him seem out of place among peers, he wouldn't trade his life for anything, except now they're facing eviction due to rising rent. Enter Jimmy DeLuca, a shady elderly man with a reputation for being bad news, who makes Oscar an offer he can't refuse. He's got the drop on riches hidden away on the outside, and he'll share the loot with Oscar on one condition: he busts him out of Sunny Days. Join Oscar on this adventure of a lifetime to secure a future for him and his grandfather at Sunny Days.
Caldecott honoree Peter McCarty's Five Wolves marks an extraordinary new fusion of picture books and graphic novel. It's like no book I've ever held in my hands, a pioneering new kind of graphic poem that tells an enthralling artistic quest and a journey through life, death, and the afterlife. This true masterpiece, rendered in McCarty's jaw-dropping pencil work and woven throughout with calligraphy, will draw you into profound visual and emotional experience. Next slide. Five Wolves stands as a testament to the enduring power of art and visual storytelling. It's a book that will leave an indelible impression on young readers of all kinds, a transporting bedtime story, or a meditation to return to for the rest of our lives. Next slide. This book comps perfectly to several other great books that can never, ever be comped. Groundbreakers like Sean Tan's The Arrival and Brian Selznick's Hugo Cabret. We highly recommend reading a finished copy rather than a digital galley, because this is really just a physical work of art, and we'll make that a giveaway available in our newsletter. Next slide, please. Okay, if you are a reader, you have a reader in your library or classroom who cannot get enough of survival stories, this is their next favorite book. Like the all-time classic Hatchet, Soul Survivor follows a child who survives a deadly plane crash. Also like Hatchet, this book involves that kid battling against nature and against the odds. Also like Hatchet, the kid digs deep and finds a way out, and this features edge-of-your-seat adventure, pulse-poundingly exciting writing. But there's one really striking difference. Unlike Hatchet, Norman Olstead and Brendan Kiley's Soul Survivor is a story that is 100% true. Next slide. When Norman was just 11-year-old, he miraculously survived a plane crash that killed his father at 8,500 feet above sea level on the icy slopes of Ontario Peak in the San Gabriel Mountains of California in the midst of a blizzard in the dead of winter. It's the spirit of self-confidence instilled in him by his now deceased father that gave him the wherewithal to survive impossible conditions to make his way down this mountain. Next slide, please. You might recognize this outline because, Norm published this book for adults, Crazy for the Storm, a beloved bestseller. But this book is not a young reader's adaptation. It's a wholly original retelling of this astounding story, thoughtfully recalibrated together with the brilliant Brendan Kiely. We promise you this is a book you won't be able to put down once you've picked it up.
In this exciting, fast-paced fantasy debut novel by Lily Dodd, we meet 12-year-old Ava, who stumbles upon the last Arimander egg, a creature long believed to be extinct after a decree by the Kingdom of Glaucus. Suddenly, Ava is the target of unwanted attention, including from the Thieves' Union, a mysterious organization with a rebellious streak and fingers in every pie in Port Town. The Union orders its youngest member, the orphan dairy delivery boy, Dusty St. Ichabod, to steal the egg from Ava, which is far easier said than done. Ava and Dusty put aside their differences to confront dangerous crime syndicates and maneuver through elite boarding schools aiming to protect the precious Arimander egg, which the world's fate uncertain. They face the looming question of what will happen if the egg hatches. Chock full of heroic hijinks, battle-forged friendships, and sharp humor, The Last Ember is the first installment in the action-packed fantasy adventure about a powerful creature, those who seek to exploit it, and those who are willing to protect it at all costs. Perfect for fans of green, wild, impossible creatures and the school for good and evil.
Okay, now we have a very special interlude. Give me a moment. Okay, finally closing out our middle grade buzz, we have a very special guest. When I found out last year that we'd have the opportunity to publish two-time Newbery honoree Jasmine Warga's next book, I couldn't believe our luck, truly. And when I read the manuscript earlier this year in 2 sittings, my excitement skyrocketed because Jasmine Warga's next book, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan, is unforgettable. Here to introduce her next book, on sale March 2026, and to reveal the cover for the very first time for all of you, is Jasmine Warga.
Hi, everyone. I'm
Mary, we lost the sound. Can you turn your sound on?
a rescue dog named Finnegan.
I'm sorry, everyone. I understand I've lost the sound. Let me try this again. Of course, technology. Let's try this. Okay, let's cross our fingers, everyone. This is it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Warga, and I am so excited today to be able to show you the gorgeous cover of my new book, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan. And The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan is about a rescue dog named Finnegan and a cheetah cub named Chase, and how their stories intertwine in a really unlikely but also powerful and meaningful way. And so when our book starts, Finnegan is lost in the woods. He has been abandoned, he's injured, but another human finds him and ends up bringing him to the most unlikely of places, the zoo, where he learns that this is going to be his new home and he's going to have a new important role, which is being the companion and friend of a cheetah cub named Chase. And Chase is sort of reeling from the death of her mother. She is now the only cheetah left at the zoo and is feeling a lot of pressure about getting ready to perform at the cheetah show, and a lot of pressure to kind of represent cheetahs, make humans care about cheetahs, is feeling kind of that existential threat of what does it mean that cheetahs cheetahs are endangered, and Finnegan is on his path to trying to figure out, can he be a good friend? Will Chase end up being disappointed in him? Will he also lose this home? And the book is inspired by real life programs at zoos across the country where dogs are really brought in to be friends and sort of surrogate siblings to cheetahs, because cheetahs in human care experience really high levels of anxiety. And when I learned this, I instantly wanted to write this book because I realized it had so many themes that are important to me. Like, what does it mean to be friends with somebody a little bit different than you? How our friends make us braver, especially when we are struggling with mental health issues like anxiety. And of course, the pressures associated with representing a community. And so I hope that you will love the cover. I love it so much. I am so grateful to the art director and the illustrator for creating such a gorgeous cover and bringing the story to life. And last of all, I would like to thank all of you for the important work that you do. Librarians are more vital than ever, so thank you.
All right, and I gave you a quick preview just a moment ago, but here is the adorable, memorable cover of The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan. I cannot say enough positive things about this book. I really look forward to hearing what all of you think about this book. As you can see, we already have a glowing blurb from John Shu, and really this one is a keeper. Finally, you'll see we have continuing series coming out this fall. Next slide, please. So many great books to browse at our title list, so please make sure you use that grid as you build your orders. Next slide, please. And even more books available on NetGalley and nonfiction, fiction, books for every reader. Next slide. Next slide, and now into young adults.
Kicking off our YA list, next slide, with Sisters in the Wind, the latest YA novel from instant New York Times bestselling and award-winning author Angeline Boulley. Angeline brings us back to Sugar Island for another edge-of-your-seat thriller that introduces and reintroduces beloved characters and sheds light on issues facing Indigenous people today. This is a daring new mystery that offers a nuanced exploration of the dark side of the Indian Child Welfare Act through the eyes of Lucy Smith, a foster teen claiming her heritage on her own terms. Lucy was raised by her birth father, who never talked about her Ojibwe heritage, and ever since Lucy's father died 5 years ago, Lucy has been in foster care. Life in the system has taught her to be cautious and smart. Even when she is ultimately told the truth about her identity, she is Ojibwe, she has a grandmother, she has, well, had a sister, Lucy isn't sure who she can trust because Lucy is being followed. An explosive story about seeking vindication from a past that won't let you go, Sisters in the Wind is an unput-downable read for longtime Angeline fans and new readers alike. Next slide, please. Next up, we have a special video from National Book Award finalist Deborah Heiligman, author of Loudmouth. Here's Deborah to tell you more. Next slide, please.
I've always wanted to be a badass, a troublemaker, a loudmouth, but I've been cursed with good girl syndrome. So I decided to write about the baddest badass I could think of, and that's Emma Goldman. Emma Goldman came to America in 1885 at 16, and she loved this country, she loved its ideals, but by the time she was 20, she was speaking out against the injustice she saw, the tyranny and prejudice, and she was fighting for workers' rights and women's rights and free speech and birth control and so much more. She was the great American loudmouth, really famous, giving speeches all over the country for 3 decades to tens of thousands of people, even though she kept getting arrested and thrown in jail over and over again. For the past 4.5 years, diving into my primary source research, I got to know Emma not just for the larger-than-life figure that she was, but also Emma the person. Emma was a great cook, and she loved to feed people. She was an idealist. She was a hard worker. She was a loyal friend. She was a devoted sister. She was an angry daughter. She was a passionate lover, and she was a jealous lover, even though she believed in free love. I'm going to tell you one more thing about Emma. She loved to read. She read so much. And so she carried a book with her wherever she went. You know why? In case she would get arrested. She didn't want to get stuck in jail with nothing good to read. I can't wait for you to meet my Emma.
New York Times bestselling author Ngozi Ukazu returns with her first original graphic novel, a funny and heart-wrenching story about a Black scholarship student who mysteriously switches bodies with her crush, a popular white jock. Next slide, please. Chi-Chi just wanted to give Flip a private promposal video and figured she'd get rejected. But when Flip humiliates her in front of the entire school, the unexpected happens. The two of them switch bodies. Suddenly, Chi-Chi is 6'1" and cool, while Flip gets a crash course on Chi-Chi's life. That is K-pop and being a nerdy poor kid of color at a rich white private school. Next slide, please. Flip is Freaky Friday meets the other black girl and perfect for fans of heartwarming and grounded YA stories. Flip is a story about learning to love yourself despite what others may or may not feel for you, and the lesson that there is always something new to learn when literally walking in someone else's shoes. Next slide, please. Prince honoree and former librarian Lily Anderson has given us a new thrilling and chilling read with Showstopper. Perfect for young horror fans, Showstopper follows teenager Faye and her friends as their theater camp becomes a real-life horror show. Of course, murder and bloodshed aren't the only things on these teens' minds. Faye is finally ready to take center stage as her true Afro-Latina self and break out of her white passing roles. She's competing with her best friends for lead roles, and of course, there's the new Camp Cutie to worry about. Alongside slasher murders and jump scares, Showstopper lovingly looks at the world of theater and friendship. Perfect for fans of Scream and theater camp, it's filled with humor and heart and doesn't shy away from some of the trickier parts, the drama, the intrigue of being a theater kid. Next slide, please.
For fans of You've Reached Sam and If I Stay comes a hauntingly beautiful, ultimately hopeful novel in verse about a girl in between life and death by National Book Award finalist Amber McBride. The living room is the place between life and death, a place to stop, rest, and prepare for the journey ahead. Living rooms are run by keepers who help people in and onward. Gospel is a keeper. She doesn't remember how she was made in charge of her living room, but she carries out her task of keeping people until they're ready to go. What Gospel doesn't realize, however, is that she is also in that space between life and death. In the kind of twistiness that Amber McBride does so well, this story takes place over the span of just 4 minutes, as Gospel and her girlfriend are being triaged in an emergency room after a horrible accident. Amber infuses this novel in verse with an almost musical cadence. Readers will lose themselves in the storytelling and imagery. The living room explores connection, memory, and hope in ways that are poignant and simply unforgettable. Next slide, please. Next up, we have I've Got My Love to Keep Me Warm, a dual POV romance full of Black queer joy from Schneider Family Book Award winner and Stonewall honoree Mariama J. Lockington. Lyric, a former foster kid and current makeup influencer, needs Juniper's help. Lyric needs money for cosmetology school. Juniper needs money for a gap year that she hasn't quite told her moms about yet. And if they pose as girlfriends on Lyric's social media, they'll split the sponsorship money. What could go wrong? This book is obviously a holiday romance, but it takes a more nuanced approach to the genre. Juniper is dealing with her mom's rocky relationship, and Lyric's holidays were spent in and out of foster care. While these are hard topics, the book is unabashedly joyful, and with one POV written in prose and the other in verse, Mariama's award-winning range of writing skills is on full display. Readers will love seeing their favorite tropes played out in this sweet winter romance. Next slide. From New York Times bestselling author George M. Johnson and Stonewall honoree Leah Johnson comes a fresh and fun romance that's perfect for fans of Heartstopper. There's Always Next Year follows cousins Andy and Dominique who race to fix their love lives and save their family's failing hardware store before New Year's Day is over. This Hallmark-esque story from a powerhouse author duo feels completely original, yet delightfully familiar. Favorite tropes like friends to lovers, unrequited love, and second chance romance abound as our characters endure a snowy 24 hours of hijinks that culminates at the small-town tradition called the Festival of Lights. There's Always Next Year is a dual POV double love story featuring two queer Black couples about what it means to nearly blow your life up and race to put it back together before time runs out. And if they fail, well, there's always next year. Next slide. And don't miss our continuing series titles like new books from Hafsa Faisal and Axie O. Next slide. And of course, even more titles on NetGalley. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And now I'll pass it to Elise for our adult titles.
Thank you, Davina. In adult, I have a couple things to note. Next slide. Lucas Wars is an award-winning graphic novel that's taken France by storm, and it's the true story of the making of the original Star Wars, so we can't wait to have it here. It's filled with a kind of vivid, expressive artwork that leaps off the page while beautifully capturing the likeness of everyone from Carrie Fisher to Spielberg, Coppola, Alec Guinness, and many others. Next slide. It's also packed with juicy behind-the-scenes goodies from the making of one of pop culture's greatest franchises ever. Next slide. And exciting news for adult fans of Leigh Bardugo. Since their initial publications almost 10 years ago, superstar Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows and its sequel, Crooked Kingdom, brought legions of fans to Leigh's established Grishaverse series, and the Netflix's hit show, Shadow and Bone, garnered new heights of adoration. Now, a decade later, we're re-releasing Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom in special luxe hardcover packages, complete with brand new jackets, stained edges, and exclusive bonus content, including letters between Kaz and Inej, all suited for an adult audience. Next slide. And we've got more adult titles on our list, so please click through to NetGalley to explore more. But that is it for adult. I'm going to pass things over to Alex for our final in conversation.
Thanks, Elise. Now I am excited to introduce our final guests of the program, New York Times bestselling author and Newbery Medalist Rebecca Stead and Rebecca's editor, Liz Zabla, VP, Associate Publisher at Feiwel and Friends. They'll be in conversation talking about Rebecca's highly anticipated new middle grade novel, The Experiment. Liz, take it away.
Thanks, Alex, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Rebecca Stead, who truly needs no introduction, but I'm going to tell you anyway that The Experiment will appeal to the same audience as her beloved Newbery Medal book, When You Reach Me. Moreover, The Experiment gives the vibes of another classic, A Wrinkle in Time. It's the same kind of classic in the making story of family, friendship, and cosmic identity. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Liz.
Hi.
It's great to be here. And I just have to say, I'm completely blown away by everything we've heard up till now. I wish I just had a big stack on my desk of all the books that we just heard about.
I know it's a good TBR.
Yeah,
I
never get
our moment, right?
It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to start this by addressing the question everyone who sees the cover of The Experiment is asking, is that a tail on your protagonist? And when you told me that the main character, Nathan, would grow not only a tail, but a tail with a personality, I could not imagine how you'd work that detail into the story. But I bet I won't be the only reader to fall very hard for Nathan's tail, whose name is Tuck. Tuck is simply unforgettable. So tell us how in the world you came up with this idea.
So a long time ago, I wrote a short story about Nathan, a boy growing a tail. And it was kind of a wild ride. And in my mind, like not fully baked. And so it was a story that I turned over and over in my mind for 10 years, maybe. And I realized that in addition to a lot of layers of meaning, which I hope are in this story, the tale itself needed to be more of an entity or a character of its own with meaning and with emotion. And in the end, Tuck kind of steals the show, I think. And that was sort of one of the amazing things about writing this book, because I'm not someone who plans ahead. So I don't know every single thing when I start writing chapter one. So for me, this was sort of a journey of discovery and, some delight also, as I got to know Tuck myself.
Well, I was thinking about this conversation and talking to librarians, and I'm going to be so interested to hear as people start reading The Experiment, who their favorite character is. I think I know who mine is.
Yeah.
I think it's Tuck.
Really?
I think it's Tuck. I think that I'm just having like Tuck flashbacks.
That is really great to hear. Yeah, I mean, hopefully the reader's feelings about Tuck are going to change, and that's sort of over the course of the story. And that's in a way one of the greatest pleasures, I think, in reading a book is finding how quickly our hearts can warm to characters or entities who don't seem all that appealing at the beginning. So Nathan, as you know, knows from a very young age that he is in fact part of an extraterrestrial experiment on Earth. And his whole job and his parents' whole job is to make him into a perfect human being, or perfect looking, perfect acting. That's at the beginning of the story what he believes his greatest dream, his that's his goal at the beginning of the story. And so when Tuck begins to grow, it is a really unwelcome and scary development. And so in many ways, it's about Nathan's relationship to his tale that is sort of like the story in miniature. Because in fact, what is happening is that on a bigger scale, Nathan is having a lot of revelations about what he's always been told, which is that he and his family are part of a very noble experiment, and that they are there, as scientists, as explorers. And then there is reason to question so much of that. And so it's also a story about questioning the story that you have always been told about yourself, by other people and also by yourself. So I feel like hopefully the story is working on a couple of levels and also includes some big surprises, because all is definitely not as it appears to be.
Well, that it does. And I love what you just said about the science, because I feel like Tuck does start out as the science and then becomes something much, much more meaningful.
Absolutely.
So, I find a lot when I'm working on middle grade fiction that young characters are trying to break away from their parents in this age group. But in the experiment, Nathan's parents play a significant role in his life, and their unconventional approach to parenting adds a really unique layer to the story. So can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind Nathan's parents and the extent to which you decided to include them?
Yes. I mean, it maybe more than in any of I always have parents in my books. I believe that parents are really important. And I'm not just saying that as a parent, but because I remember being 11 or 12 or 10, and you are very, very much in your parents' world. And Nathan never doubts his parents' love for him. Their love for him is huge, but they also have very specific goals for him. And so it was important to really flesh out what this relationship was going to be all about, because as he questions his own goals about what he really wants, or whether he wants to find out more about who he is, he's also questioning his parents' goals. And they are not really encouraging him to do that. And so for me, this is also really an exploration of finding your own place in terms of your beliefs about yourself without separating from the love of your parents. In other words, there is distance that grows between them, but it's always in this framework of love. Their family is basically unshakable, and when push comes to shove, his parents have his back and he has theirs. But it's complicated and like life. And so that was something that I really ended up putting a lot into, and it's something that I really haven't written about before. And so I found it to be a really rich source of material and questions.
That is so interesting. It is very rich, but the way you have handled it is so delicate. It feels so real, because there is that back and forth, the wanting to separate, the wanting to stay close, and also the bond. They don't they not only have each other's backs, but they're bonded by an incredible secret and a mission that they feel they're all on, which is part of this experiment.
Absolutely.
So it's so masterfully handled. I think we're getting down to 1 minute. Okay, here's the bonus question, Rebecca.
Okay.
What do
I'm
you
ready.
hope? Okay, what do you hope that young readers take away from Nathan's journey of self-discovery?
You know, I am like 95% on the side of a good reading experience. So what I really hope, and I'm not just saying this because, you know, we all struggle to read sometimes, like sometimes it just, you're not finding the books you want. So, and then when you do, it just feels so amazing. And so I think my number one is that I want them to feel completely enthralled by the story. With this one, that was always front and center for me. But aside from that, I think that it's a story about courage, and I hope that young people take away, you know, a feeling that it's okay to be yourself and stay confident that you're going to be loved.
Yes.
I love that. I think everyone is going to really take away this message of courage, and I can't wait for you all to dig in. Rebecca and Liz, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today. I am going to thank everyone in the audience watching on the behalf of the MacKids School and Library team, but we are going to pass this over to Booklist for some final notes.
Thanks so much, Elise. And thank you so much, Rebecca, Liz, Maria, all of our special guests who appeared on video, and of course to the MacKids School and Library team for such a fantastic preview. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, slide presentation, title list, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit www.booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. You can also find out about the latest webinars on our social channels. Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now Blue Sky. We are thrilled to announce that the digital version of Booklist Reader, the monthly reader's advisory magazine from the editors of Booklist, is now an ALA member benefit. Head over to our new site to start reading, and if you're not already a Booklist subscriber, you'll use your ALA membership ID to sign in. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. A huge thank you again to all of our special guests and to our sponsor, the MacKids School and Library Marketing Team. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.